An ASIC spokesman defended the AMP links on the external advisory panel, saying it was very broad-based and will use to managing such conflicts as arise from time to time. However, he added Mr. Salter would be stood down from the Financial Service and Credit Panel until the current issues concerning AMP are finalized. The role of ASIC has become a key talking point during the Royal Commission, which last week exposed a series of damaging examples of financial misconduct by AMP, Westpac and AN. Treasurer Scott Morrison acknowledged criticisms already leveled at ASIC and how they have performed their duties in an interview with the Australian Financial Review on the weekend. Lawyers for Mr. Salter were approached on the weekend but declined to comment. Clayton Utz, one of the country's largest law firms, has come under scrutiny over its role in preparing the independent report for AMP, which was aimed soothing ASIC's concerns over the management of its financial planning business. The Royal Commission heard Clayton Utz provided 25 drafts of the report to AMP, which resulted in detailed changes being made, including the removal of Mr. Mellor's name from an earlier version of the report. Clayton Utz chief partner Rob Cutler on Sunday defended the report and denied the firm had ever represented the process as being independent from the board. He added the report was completed at the instruction of the board and Mr. Salter. The terms of engagement stipulated that the investigation was to be undertaken independent of management of the advice business being reviewed and under the instruction of the AMP board and its general counsel, he said. AMP's Brian Salter photo, supplied. However, the law firm has been criticized by former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett, who said it should face a decade-long ban from taxpayer-funded work over the issue. These organizations like Clayton Utz earn millions of dollars a year from government and they should be banned, he said. Organizations like Clayton Utz earn millions of dollars a year from government, and they should be banned, Jeff Kennett. Victorian government officials told Fairfax on Sunday they would be demanding answers from Clayton Utz, the Department of Justice and Regulation will be seeking an explanation from Clayton Utz regarding the evidence given to the Royal Commission, and will provide advice to government once it has received that explanation, Department Deputy Secretary Donald Spiegel said. Mr. Salter, who played a key role in changes to the report, formerly worked for Clayton Utz. Sydney Law School professor David Kinley said Mr. Kennett's call was a big-ticket statement but that the sentiment was understandable. Loading, Clayton Utz are not going to be at top of the list of any government's list for law work in the next while, you can guarantee that, he said. He said professional advisors writing independent reports were always in an awkward position, because advisors had to obtain information from their clients in order to write the report. The downside was advisors might run close to the line of being co-conspirator as opposed to independent arbiter, he said. It is a lawyer's job to know where that ethical line ought to be. That's why they're paid. AMP is presently standing by its chairman Catherine Brenner despite some shareholders agitating for her to be replaced by acting chief executive Mike Wilkins. AMP is expected to lodge a fresh submission to the Royal Commission arguing Ms. Brenner did nothing illegal or unethical when she instructed that a paragraph be inserted into the final report exonerating Mr. Mellor. ASIC's ties to the financial services industry are one of the many uncomfortable issues to be raised by the Royal Commission and could become a political headache for Mr. Morrison and Financial Services Minister Kelly O'Dwyer. ASIC's external advisory panel is chaired by Gresham banker Mark Johnson, while the 20-member panel features 11 business leaders alongside academics, government and consumer representatives, and meets about 6 times a year, often with the senior-most figures at the regulator. Of those 11, 3 have strong links to AMP, including Andrew Mole, who is currently a director of the Commonwealth Bank of Australia and ran AMP from 2002 to 2007, and Craig Dunn, who now sits on the board of Westpac Banking Corp. Mr. Dunn replaced Mr. Mole as chief executive of AMP, serving in that role until 2013. Holly Kramer, whose executive background is in telecommunications, is a director of AMP, having served on the board since 2015. The Royal Commission resumes on Monday with further scrutiny for AMP, with its head of compliance Sarah Brett due to give evidence, followed by senior National Australia Bank executive Andrew Hager. AMP confirmed on Sunday that it would plough ahead with its scheduled annual general meeting on May 10 as investor anger has mounted.